as I was reading through your client segmentation, kind of value graphics and psychographics, I was curious of how much you're writing about your ideal client versus how much you're writing about you. And I mean, we should have obviously commonalities with our ideal client. That's how we can empathize with them.
Yeah.
But it was so well written. I was like, I feel like I'm reading Sonja's diary right now, or is it?
Let me take a look at that one.
Because you were very specific. I think that's where I was taking it from.
Yeah. Really, I mean, a lot of it is like, I've been sitting with this for a while. Also, like, I do tend to teach things that I've gone through, right? Oh, you know why? It's because I base this on someone I'm working with right now.
Okay.
Yeah, that was primarily like, I was looking at her as, but yeah, I mean, like, we attract people that are us in an earlier time. So.
Yeah, it was just something I was curious about. But it's you know, it's great that you've got. I would be curious in terms of the age, because 30 to 55 is a fairly wide range. It's not necessarily a bad thing, but even chopping that into smaller parts, it's definitely, I mean, that the struggle that a woman has at 55 who has spent her life not being true to her voice is a different kind of urgency than someone at 30 who's like, you know what, I'm giving myself a pass because I've just been figuring out my career, or I've been so busy with, you know, my young family or whatever it is, that that urgency isn't really there.
I can see that.
Yeah.
I actually feel like where my sweet spot is now that, because I started to, as I was writing through this stuff, I started to be like, okay, it skews older, because there's this thing that I keep on running into with clients that I'm finding right now who are about 38, and they're like on this precipice where, like, at 40, women walk through this door, and it's a lot of us end up being like, I don't give any fucks anymore. You know, it's like, and that's where I think the real shift is possible. You know, like, she spent her 30s being like apologizing for her existence, and then she's approaching 40 and she's like, what am I actually going to do with this? And so that's where she has, I think there's a real power. So maybe it's actually older, not 30. It's like actually 38 to 55.
And I'm glad you got there, because I totally agree. And there's an interesting thing as well, that around 40, much more than 30, and especially right now, there's so many people, the majority of people that are sort of shaking up the chessboard, and just like, it is a very natural new chapter for a lot of people that comes along with either a relationship coming to an end, or their kids approaching an age that they no longer need you quite so much. And then also because you're kind of looking down the barrel of the rest of your life of like, okay, I'm hopefully halfway through, you know, if I take care of myself, what does the latter half look like? And then there's also pieces around what's my value as, you know, and how do I put this delicately, but we put an emphasis on how fertile you are as a woman in our culture, and you get progressively less value as you have as much, we can use eggs as value units of like, how many of those do you have left? And so just approaching that topic as well. And at the same time, I believe, and correct me if I'm wrong, a lot of women sort of reach sexual maturity and enter sexual maturity into that sort of 40s. You know, you think of it as being like, oh, when I'm 18, that's going to be when my libido and all of this is at its highest, and desire and all of that. But I don't know if that's necessarily true. And so
for women, I mean, it's also like, there's a lot of there's because there's no scientific study on women ever, but you can see hormonal changes shifting as testosterone will begin to increase as they get closer to perimenopause. That does increase sex drive, but also there's a lot of societal factors, a lot of which you just named. You know, at 40, a woman is far more confident in herself. And at 30, you know, she's like, I don't know. There's this need to secure a mate that happens at that 30-ish age that makes it harder to buck to go against the grain.
Yeah, and far less susceptible to the infantilizing that comes along with both anti-feminist and feminist rhetoric of women and girls need to be protected at all cost, which I don't disagree with, but I can see that as being a pretty disempowering, like, no, shh, sweetheart, you just sit over there, like, we'll make the world safe for you. Which I think when, like you say, when you're 40 plus, it's like, you know what, I've got this. Like, I've been through a lot of experiences. Like, I don't need the world to make itself cushiony for me. And so capitalizing on that worldview perspective change, or self-view perspective change, to say, okay, you ready now? Like that's the, like, you weren't ready 10 years ago. Let's think about you 10 years ago. You weren't ready for this.